Hello everyone, my name is Slade, I'll be your host, and welcome to Star Wars Did You Know? For today's topic, it's going to be less about solid lore and more about speculation. And this speculation was born from a conversation with my readers who was asking me what happened to Anakin Skywalker following the Clone Wars. And this question has a bit more nuance than you might think. Obviously, we all know Anakin became Darth Vader. However, we have to remember, most people didn't know that Anakin was Darth Vader. Only a handful of people throughout the galaxy had any idea the two were synonymous. With that in mind, and with the fact that Anakin was a very well-known war hero, what exactly happened to him? He wasn't an unknown, he wasn't some obscure Jedi on the fringe of the Clone Wars. He was in the thick of it. He often was present on Coruscant, within the halls of the Republic's government, as well as alongside the Supreme Chancellor. So obviously, people knew of him, and must have wondered what happened to this seemingly unstoppable young Jedi Knight who was rising through the Jedi's ranks, and very clearly militarily capable. Now, before we continue forwards, I'm going to specify the obvious that I often do. This is purely expanded universe, although in this case there doesn't appear to be an answer for this within the Disney canon. So, as usual, as is often the case with my videos, this is purely expanded universe, and do not look to this video for an answer for anything currently involved with the Disney canon, unless things change. Now first off, we're going to start with what we do know from the expanded universe's lore, and this is largely going to come from Obi-Wan's perspective in this case, and that is, as he told Luke, before the secret of Vader's identity was revealed, Vader betrayed and murdered Anakin Skywalker. And when I first started doing research into the subject, that's the extent of what I knew, and it's what I assumed was widely known. However, the specifics are actually a little more interesting and perhaps insidious, we'll say, because, as you'll see shortly, it's kind of a cruel irony of what Anakin's image became following the Clone Wars. Now, whereas Obi-Wan simply tells Luke that his father was betrayed by Darth Vader, who was a pupil of Obi-Wan, in the Empire, Anakin Skywalker was painted as a traitor, alongside all the other Jedi who had supposedly turned against the Republic and tried to overthrow Palpatine. And this surprised me at first, because we know there are Jedi who changed sides and joined the Inquisitorius. In fact, the original members of the Inquisitorius are almost all former Jedi who turned to the dark side rather than be killed by the Empire. Given this, it's somewhat surprising that the Empire chose to paint Anakin Skywalker as a villain, especially since he had a direct role in Operation Nightfall, the downfall of the Jedi Temple. And I started to consider what this might mean. But first, let's explain what the exact line from the Galactic Empire is as to what happened to Anakin Skywalker. We are told through Imperial propaganda that Anakin Skywalker on the night of Operation Nightfall was at the Jedi Temple. However, as we all know, he was there, participating in the assault. He was leading the 501st into the temple. But according to the Empire, Anakin was not part of the 501st at that time. Anakin, in fact, was in the Jedi Council chambers, defending the younglings against Darth Vader, and the Empire tells its people that that is where Anakin met his end. In perhaps one of the greatest twists of the knife ever, the same younglings that Anakin would murder as Darth Vader are claimed to have been defended by the very person who would kill them. And Anakin himself, as mentioned, was killed during Operation Nightfall by Darth Vader. And it is unclear why the Empire did this, or specifically the Emperor, because I'm sure this came from him. There are a couple possibilities. One, and perhaps most likely, it could be simply another method of removing Anakin from his past and cementing him in the role of Darth Vader. Two, it could be that this is a case of trying to paint all the Jedi as the villains, and take the strongest Jedi of them all, the one that everyone looked up to, the war hero, the one who walked in the halls of power, as no better than the other ones. It's difficult to say exactly what Palpatine was thinking when he orchestrated this lie, but it is clear that it was intentional, and again, it was most likely a part of his overall scheme to make Vader lose more and more of who he was as Anakin Skywalker and become fully the Dark Lord of the Sith that Palpatine wanted him to be. And that is the extent of what we know. Unfortunately, there's no further information specifically on how Anakin was perceived by the Empire, beyond the fact that we are told through their propagandists that Anakin Skywalker fell defending Jedi younglings at the Jedi Temple when he engaged in a duel with Darth Vader. And as we all know, it's perhaps closer to what Obi-Wan told Luke than we might expect from the Galactic Empire. which, given the similarities between what Obi-Wan told Luke and what the Galactic Empire told the public about Anakin Skywalker's fate, it makes me wonder if Obi-Wan knew the story of Anakin's fall against Darth Vader, and used that lie to further his own goals in the case of Luke, telling Luke the same story, more or less, as what the Galactic Empire's propagandists were telling the public, so that if Luke were ever to hear of Anakin Skywalker, he would hear a story similar to the one that Obi-Wan had told him, and therefore not question the identity of Darth Vader, and perhaps have more personal doubts about Obi-Wan's goals and Luke's own role in them when it came to finally confronting his father at the Battle of Endor. But now it's time to hear what you think. Do you believe that Obi-Wan knew of the Imperial lie about Anakin Skywalker dying in a duel on the night of Operation Nightfall against Darth Vader, and used that to shape his own story for what he would tell Luke later in his life? Or do you think this is perhaps just a happy coincidence that the best explanation for both Obi-Wan and the Empire just happened to coincide? And do you agree with the idea that this is most likely an attempt by Palpatine to further distance Anakin from who he was and cement his role as Darth Vader? As always, I'm interested in hearing your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed the video. Alright everyone, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to like and subscribe. There'll be more content coming. If you've got any questions or comments, by all means leave them and I'll be responding to them shortly. Until next time, this is your host Slade, and this has been Star Wars Did You Know?